Hey, I'm Circle Strafe, and welcome to episode 5 of my Dante's Inferno rundown. In the last episode, we entered the Gates of Dis and moved into the 6th circle, the Heretics. In this episode, we're going to finish up the 6th circle and enter into the 7th circle, Violence. Now that we've spent a few episodes talking about Dante's life, motivations and inspirations, it's really time to start talking about the effects of his work. What did the poem influence and how? To start off in this episode, we're just going to talk about the poem's cultural identity from a 21st century point of view. Dante's unique view on hell has over time bled into the consciousness of how hell is seen. His work is not religiously canonical, but it has still affected the perception of the Christian hell on a generalized level. Dante created the idea of an inferno where sinners are punished in ways that reflect the sins that they committed. He greatly defined and expanded on the historical representation of the 7 deadly sins. He ordered them and he structured them. He put them into fixed layers and grouped offences logically with one another. Even now, in the 21st century, references are constantly made to the deepest circle of hell, as the idea that the context of an action being spoken about is very, very bad. Ask anyone to tell you about hell, and their answer will very likely be mixed between classical theological descriptions and Dante's work. In the modern age, there are countless derivative works based on Dante's depictions. Classically speaking, there are many musical compositions inspired by the poem. There are paintings and other art pieces stretching back centuries, and there are over 100 English translations of the work. In the modern day, you have video games, comic books, and movies based on Dante's work. As the times evolve, the poem is still moving into newer forms of digital media, like this video you're watching right now. Take a quick second to reflect that this video is narrated by a man from England, 700 years after the original Italian poem was first written. Even among its peers, with epics considerably longer and sometimes arguably better written, Dante's work seems to endlessly endure within theology, literature, and public consciousness. Let's catch up with our poets, back in Circle 6. Virgil leads Dante into a disgusting smelling valley. The stench is coming from more burning tombs. One of the tombs states that it holds Pope Anastasius. This pope denied the divinity of Jesus. Virgil says to Dante,
"Let us wait a short while until we are used to this vile smell."
The pair brace themselves behind some large boulders and take a brief rest. Instead of wasting their time, Virgil decides it is time to explain the perhaps overdue structure of hell to his companion. Virgil kicks off his explanation of hell by starting at circle number 7. The pair will soon enter into this circle. Circle 7, Virgil says, is split into 3 smaller subcircles, and each of these indicates a particular form of violence. Those who practice violence against their neighbours, like murderers, rapists and warmongers, reside within the first subcircle. There is no distinction here between violence against a person and violence against a person's property. Sinners guilty of crimes like arson are placed in this subcircle. Suicides reside in the second subcircle. It's a place where those who committed violence against their own bodies are punished. Finally, in the third subcircle resides the blasphemers and the usurers, or the high-interest moneylenders. Those who were guilty of crimes against God, art and nature are sent here. Virgil immediately moves on to describing the sinners punished in circle number 8. He explains,
"In the 8th level, the fraudsters are punished. The magicians, the thieves, the hypocrites, and falsifiers suffer from enriching themselves with lies. Fraud is so specifically a human trait, denying the bond of love that all men have from nature."
Finally, Virgil describes circle number 9, the deepest level of this inferno.
"Within the final level of this pit can be found the treacherous, the traitors, those that fraudulized their loved ones. They not only denied their bond with their love of nature, but their bond with the love of their friends."
Dante is confused, and he asks Virgil why God doesn't punish all of the previous sinners as equally as those that will come. Shouldn't God treat all sinners the same? Why are all the sinners not confined within the city of Dis? Virgil frustratingly scolds Dante for his idiocy of presuming sins are black and white. Whilst the sins outside of the city are damnable, they are not malicious. Francesca da Rimini did not have an affair specifically to hurt her husband, and the avaricious did not intend to harm others with their greed. Virgil reminds Dante of Aristotle's book, which divides sin into 3 classes of evil: incontinence, which is self-control, mad bestiality, which is violence, and malice, which is fraud. All prior sinners were sufferers of incontinence. Lust, gluttony, avarice, prodigality, wrath, sullenness all fall into this category. Incontinence is the least offensive of the 3 classes to God. Dante asks Virgil about the sin of moneylending, and why it falls into the same category as violence against God. Virgil responds that man's labour follows the will of God, and that earning a living off of one's own back is therefore in line with the natural order. Moneylenders generate money unnaturally, and are therefore sinners against nature. Dante was a great believer that art, or in this case industry, was a defining characteristic of the nature of man. Virgil notices changes in the sky's constellations, and gestures to Dante that the 2 of them should continue onwards into the 7th circle. The poets descend down a steep decline, which Dante compares to the landslides of Marco. At the bottom they encounter the half-man, half-bull Minotaur from Greek legend. It bites itself as they approach. The Minotaur is perfect as a guardian of the violent because of its bestial nature. Virgil taunts the Minotaur by stating,
Dante was not your slayer, Theseus, beast, but a mortal who was only here to witness your endless torment.
The Minotaur charges at the 2 of them, blinded by rage. The poets flee down the landslide to safety. Once free from the Minotaur, Virgil explains how the landslide came to be. He says that he saw Christ rapture souls from hell when he last visited this deep into the pit. The echo of pure love rumbled the universe, and that rumble caused the rubbled path. The poets are now in the 7th circle proper. That's it, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, why not check out some of my other content? Stay up to date with the channel on Facebook and Twitter. Consider checking out my Patreon page for extra content and other perks. Big shout out to the voice actor today. See the description to check out some of his other stuff. I'll see you in the next video. Toodles!